How common was it for white female slave owners to have relationships with their slaves in the antebellum American South? We're talking about pre 1860s, right? The antebellum period means the period before the American Civil War. The American Civil War is what, 1860, 61, around that time, 63? When did the American Civil War begin? Let's quickly fact check. American Civil War. When does it begin? 1861. That's right. I was right. It lasts about 4 or 5 years until 1865. So the antebellum period is the period before the Civil War begins, and that could date back 5 years, 10 years, 100 years, whatever. Antebellum South. South means the southern part of the United States, which was pro-slavery. And the northern part of the United States eventually became anti-slavery because they embraced new technology that made slavery unnecessary. Advanced technology which ensures you don't need slaves. Like today, you have soldiers in the military, but with the advent of robots and drones, you won't need soldiers potentially. Similar. So if you adopt new technology, some jobs go out of, they're no longer required. So that's what happened in the North. But in the South, they wanted to continue slavery. And that's why you had the Civil War. So you had the system of plantation slavery, etc., in the American South. And it was very common for slave owners, males, to sexually abuse their female African origin slaves. It was pretty common, and plenty of slave women gave birth to children of their white owners, that sort of thing. And those children were typically regarded as slaves, and that's how it would go. And you see, the male slave owners who would do this to the female slaves, they did not have to take any responsibility. They could simply disregard the fact that there are now half white, half black children that these black slave female persons have, ladies have. You could just disregard that, So the males in that male-dominated Christian milieu of the antebellum South, white males did not have to take responsibility for any of these things. But the greatest of all taboos was for a white woman to have a child with a black slave. That was the greatest taboo. And there were all kinds of harsh laws against that. So if a white woman gave birth to a child with a black man who was typically a slave, black people were slaves. So if a white woman gave birth to a child whose father was a black slave, she would be enslaved. And the child would be enslaved. The child would be born a slave, and the woman would be, in some states she would be enslaved for 5 years, some years in some states, she would be a slave as long as the man was alive. That sort of thing. So it was very, very harshly frowned upon. It was a great taboo. Women could not escape responsibility. Men always evaded responsibility in that society. So it was pretty uncommon for white female slave owners to have relationships with their slaves. It did happen. There are some records of that happening. And the incidence was very low among white female slave owners, but it was kind of slightly higher among poor white females who were not landowners or slave owners. So among those women, the incidence of having children with slaves was slightly higher, I would say. But it was a great taboo, and it carried a huge social stigma. So it was not very common. Did happen. There are some recorded incidents, etc. But overall, it was extremely uncommon, and it was a great social taboo.